Hello everybody, hope you're doing well. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Here we have a 14 full spell space swag. You cannot swag any more spells than this because this is all of the spells. Here we have a 13 spell space swag, and notice, ran out of room for the smiley face. Wasn't able to get the full smiley swag killer off. Here we have an 11 spell space swag. Ran out of time on this one. So make sure to get your swag down early if you want to create a cool little pattern on the base, though swag responsibly. And here we have an example of what happens when you're running out of time and you need to speed up your army so that you don't time fail. Because when you're trying to swag this many spells, time fails can become rather prevalent. And if you want to avoid the time fails, use your rages early. Again, here we have 14 spell space, trying to swag everything. Let RC die, end up failing this one outright. I just wanted to point out some dangers of trying to swag, because this swag can almost become an addiction. You start out swagging 5, 6 spells, all of a sudden you're swagging 7 to 8, then all of a sudden you're up to 9 and 10, and once you start regularly hitting 10 spell space swags, you're only going to think that 10 plus spell space swags are cool. So be careful of the addiction. Alright, so we're going to start out with the full 14 spell space swag, and I'm going to walk you through what makes this possible. So I built this attack strategy all around the best hero charge synergies in the game. We're going to use an AQ charge powered by the Warden Rage Gem. Going to meet up the BK with the AQ and Warden to push into the core, tanking for the AQ and Warden, and also to use his EQ boots to open up and give AQ access to the core, so that she can occupy the core, and underneath the Warden Rage Gemmed healers become a super tank so that we can send our RC in alongside of our AQ so they can work together, and just, it's the best hero synergy in the game, best equipment synergy in the game. Absolutely wrecks bases. It gives you the opportunity to swag 14 spells. And notice we're using kickers here, but don't worry, when the kickers leave, we'll just switch this to rocket loons, and we'll switch it to ice golems. And you can check the thumbnails of my other videos. Whenever you see a smiley swag as a thumbnail, it is a version of this attack strategy. So using some ice golems to stall up some of these defenses, manage to get BK hooked. Whenever you see a hook tower, aim to get your BK hooked. So now his EQ boots have really opened up the core. AQ is in core of the base. And notice we have 2 levels of protection for this AQ, which is absolutely insane. This is an eternal AQ charge because we have the AQ, we have her ability, we have the magic mirror, we have the giant, basically a second BK, and we have the Warden Rage Gem powering the AQ, giving her more damage, giving her more health recovery from these Warden Rage Gemmed healers, and we have the Eternal Tome underneath the Warden. So notice AQ goes to ability, Magic Mirror, 3 AQs now, Giant, Warden, Eternal Tome. Now they're unstoppable. Notice they're tanking all these defenses for the RC, and the RC just sneaks in along the outside edge, removes these defenses, keeps the AQ in the core so she can keep on tanking. This is the best hero synergy in the game. This is insanely strong. Check my playlist for the FB version without the kickers, regularly swagging 11 spells. It doesn't get better than this as far as swagging spells. Like, there's no chance to get better than this. So here we have another base. This is going to be 13 spell swag, and it could have been 14 had I not dropped down a poison spell on top of the furnace that came out of the enemy clan castle. So since I talked all about the hero equipment synergies in the last hit, this time I'm going to focus on this flame flinger. So notice we have 2 ricochet cannons up here by this minion prince. A lot of times you want to get your flame flinger to take out a ricochet cannon. Ricochet cannons are one of the worst defenses in the game for this attack strategy because, as you noticed in the previous attack, you have the AQ powered by the Warden. So if a ricochet cannon were to lock onto your AQ, the second shot, which does more damage, would skip to your Warden, and he just has over half the hit points that the AQ has, so he will go down very quickly to that second shot. So a lot of times your AQ looks good, you think you don't need to place an invisibility spell to protect her, meanwhile the Warden dies or goes to ability on you, and you want to save the Eternal Tome ability for in the core. That is a layer of protection, a fail-safe to keep the AQ alive. So you have 2 failsafes in this, and essentially you get 3 lives with your AQ. So we're just using the Warden, creating some pathing. We got the Flame Flinger doing work, hitting that Ricochet cannon, and also once that Flame Flinger pops, the super minions will come out and kill the enemy minion prince. Enemy minion prince, always a difficult hero to eliminate. So now we're meeting up our BK with our AQ. Notice we use that Yeti to create a little funnel. Sent in some kickers to direct target that Fire Spitter. Fire Spitters are one of the most problematic defenses for any kind of charge that involves healers, because a Fire Spitter will reach your primary heroes and then shoot past and hit and kill your healers, and you need your healers to stay alive. That's why we're bringing the Sneezy on the Warden to test for traps. Notice these ice golems sent in to stall up the enemy monolith, because we want the BK to have enough health to get close to these walls so that we can use the EQ boots to open up access to the core of the base for the AQ. We do not want the BK burning his ability on the outside of the base, so always funnel him in, use an ice golem or 2 or 3 to keep him alive. And notice I waited too long on the EQ ability, so I was not able to trigger and eliminate this wall up here where the AQ is. So now AQ to ability, she's about to die, Warden Eternal Tome, keeping all 3 of these AQs healthy. And notice this giant. The giant is absolutely insane for crushing and breaking through walls to give the AQ even more access to the core. And then we just snipe some outside buildings with the kickers. Notice multi-arch towers, ricochet cannons, scatter shots, high targets for the kickers, and they all take 2 kickers apiece. Monolith is also 2, Town Hall is 4 kickers, and Town Hall is 2 kickers when the kickers are under rage. Alright, so here we have a very common base. You see this base all the time in War or in Legend League. So now you'll know just how to absolutely destroy this base. So using a kicker to eliminate this mortar, sending in a barb to test for skeleton spells or Teslas, triggered a bunch of skeleton spells. The kicker's still there, going to help deal with them. Sending in some archers to help clean them up even more. And notice we placed the Warden down here just below 3 so that the Warden can tank for this Expo to keep this Flame Flinger alive. This way the Warden will tank the Expo, move in, kill the Expo, and the Flame Flinger will be able to eliminate this entire top right side. So now we're kind of worried about the Warden approaching this Ricochet and this Expo at the same time. So dropping a Rage. Alternatively, could have used a kicker or 2 just to eliminate those defenses faster. Using 2 kickers down here to eliminate this multi-archer tower. Now we'll be able to create a really nice funnel down here at 6, because we're going to pull our Warden with our AQ down to the 6 o'clock compartment. Going ahead, pulling down the Warden, sending in an Ice Golem to tank this enemy hero, dropping in the BK so the BK can get out in front of the AQ, tank for the AQ, and then use his EQ boots to open up some more walls. Sending in some battle rams to open up access to this monolith compartment, trying to sneak these Ice Golems out in front so that they can freeze up the monolith. Going ahead, dropping the poison spell over top of the furnaces so that the furnaces die faster, and that way we'll only have to deal with half the fire mites, not all of the 18 of them. So opened access to that core, and we're waiting for the BK to get close to the walls. Go ahead, use his ability. Was unable to open up the walls into the core again. That's okay. Notice the RCs coming in. RC is coming in to cut off the pathing for the AQ so that the AQ has nowhere else to go but into the core of the base. So encountered that Rage Tower compartment, a lot of damage, AQ to ability, using Eternal Tome to keep her safe, using RC, Rocket Spear. Rocket Spear's eliminating this multi-arch tower, trying to outrange it, was a little slow with that, saving an Ice Golem for the back end. AQ's working her way in, Giant again, beats to the wall, opens up the core, and that's one of the great things about the Giant. It's essentially a second BK, and when the Giant gets low on health, he starts raging. He beats through the walls, and he also does the BK equipment Giant Gauntlet effect, where he will hit one building or one defense, and it will hit a defense behind that initial target. So absolutely insane. Alright, so here we have, what is this, a 10 spell space swag. This was going to be a 14 spell space swag, but you'll see I needed to use 2 rages at the end to prevent a time fail. So notice Ricochet Cannon at 3 o'clock, one of the most problematic defenses. Going to use some barbs to test so that we can send in Flame Flinger, get a bunch of free buildings up here at 12. And the second reason we're placing our Flame Flinger at 12 is for pathing. This way we can start our Warden to do a funnel down here at 6. He's going to eliminate the air defense and the multi-archer tower so that when the healers transfer over to the AQ, they will not come into range within those defenses and be killed. Then we're going to have our AQ pull the Warden, go into this compartment at 3 o'clock. Notice we're using 2 kickers to eliminate that Ricochet Cannon that was right above the 3 o'clock compartment. This way our BK, our AQ, and our Warden will push straight in towards the Town Hall. And notice we sent in 4 kickers to eliminate this outside Town Hall. And before we sent those kickers in, we tested for Teslas with some barbs, because the last thing you want to do is drop in 4 kickers for a Town Hall, 1 Tesla pop up, and have all 4 of your kickers target the same Tesla, and then waste 3 of your shots. So Warden's going to finish up this expo, then going to pull the Warden and the healers to the right, dropping in an Ice Golem to help tank this Tesla, mainly to help tank this enemy RC, sending in a Headhunter to weaken the RC. Want to keep the BK healthy as we can, sending in a Battle Ram to give access to this interior compartment, and now going to try to push the King as deep into the base as we can to open up as much of the core as he can, and also to help damage some of these defenses with his Spiky Ball. So notice we still have our 2 levels of protection. AQ ability, Warden Eternal Tome. AQ just went to ability. So now we're just trying to make sure that the main AQ, not the clones, is healthy. And as long as she's healthy, no need to use the Eternal Tome. So we're just going to wait until the AQ becomes in danger, and we have to use that second failsafe, which is the Eternal Tome. So BK, still good, still tanking for everything. Now Eternal Tome on this back end, so these cloned AQs and the AQ can help deal with these multi-inferno towers, all this damage coming in on them, and the enemy heroes. So notice RC is coming in from the outside edge. RC is taking advantage of these defenses being distracted by the Giant and these clone AQs. Also, the Sneezy and the Phoenix that are still alive. Dropping in this Ice Golem to distract this Ricochet Cannon. Ricochet Cannon's one of the worst defenses because the Ricochet Cannon will go from the RC to the Spear Fox, kill the Spear Fox, and you'll no longer be able to distract for the RC. Because you want to transfer the defenses from targeting the RC to something else when the RC goes invisible. Notice I had to use 2 rages to speed up the attack so it didn't time fail. And that is something that you can run into when you're trying to swag all these spells. If you want to guarantee triple every time, go ahead and use a rage on your Warden. Go ahead and use a rage on your AQ. And notice I have an overgrowth in this spell comp. I have since removed it, and I just run 3 rages to prevent time fails. So creating a funnel with the Warden up here at 12, trying to figure out a spot for the Flame Flinger to go, but there's really not a particular spot that could get a bunch of value. So just holding it for later in case some value opens up, or decide to switch to the Siege Barracks to have some P.E.K.K.A.s and Wizards come out and help. And notice that Ricochet Cannon, along with the damage from the Fire Spitter, was causing too much damage on the Warden, so sent in a kicker to help the Warden power through that Ricochet Cannon faster and keep the Warden alive. So sending in some Ice Golems again for the BK and the AQ and the Warden. And the reason we start in with these Ice Golems is to prevent our AQ and our Warden from using their abilities. Also the BK, because we want the BK to get as far into the base, into the core as possible, so that his EQ boots can open up the entire core for us. And we do not want to use our AQ or Warden ability outside of the core of the base, because the core of the base contains all the most damaging defenses, specifically these Rage Tower compartments, so we want to be able to use our fail-safes when we encounter them. This way, AQ comes under too much fire, we can pop her ability, temporarily invisible, and then if she's still under a lot of fire, we can use the Eternal Tome to save her once again. This way our AQ has 3 lives. So notice AQ, about to go to ability, Scatter Shot forces the ability, and here I am thinking 14 full spell space swag the entire time. If you want to guaranteed triple, go ahead, use the rages on your cloned queens. 3 queens under rage absolutely wrecks, and it saves you a bunch of time. So now, had to use the Warden ability, Eternal Tome, so the AQ is about to die, and I'm still thinking full 14 spell space swag, even though I kind of know that this is going to fail. However, once you start swagging this many spells, you will become addicted to the attempt of swagging 14 spells. So just be careful of that. So now RC2 ability, there's really a lot of this base left. Got this Flame Flinger over here trying to remove this bottom left section, but it's still taking a lot of time, and we only got 40 seconds left. So RC is approaching the small arch tower, trying to time a kicker and some loons to distract some of her beams. Not going to work. Expo launches onto the RC, wasn't able to get a kicker in close enough to distract that Expo or the Archer Tower. Perhaps if I would have got a kicker in there faster to distract the Expo and the Archer Tower, could have saved the RC and finished off this base. But you can see, haven't used a single spell yet, and this is what happens when you don't use spells. You can either triple with 14 spells, or you can gracefully time fail, fully fail. So hopefully you guys can see how this hero equipment and charge pairing is the strongest in the game. You can replace kickers with rocket loons and yetis, and I will include a link of that in the description. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to try this and have fun.